Hi guys. I want to talk about something tough. Shocked, right? The other identity that I have that I can speak to you about is I'm a disabled woman. I can talk to you about that. I can talk to you about how, as a white disabled woman, I have a lot of privileges when it comes to my own disability community. And I can tell you that I have a lot of privileges in being myself in my own community that others in my community don't have. When it comes to the fight for disability rights, I've noticed along the way that there are folks that feel left behind and ignored and just generally frustrated because they feel that there is an erasure of their self, of their personhood. And I would not be a responsible disability activist and person in this fight if I didn't acknowledge that, if I didn't acknowledge the issues, if I didn't work towards a better way. I know a lot of times that videos like these can create an us versus them, and that's not my intention. I don't believe that there is an us versus them. I believe that there are folks who don't understand the issue and need more education, and I think there are folks that are trying to explain and feel unheard. So to start, what is intersection? Intersection is, in my own words, when different parts of the community come together in having their own different social categorizations. So, for instance, race, class, gender, disability, sexual orientation, nationality. There's so many different groupings. There's so many different categorizations that many people can be parts of many different categorizations. I myself am part of many different categorizations. What we struggle with in, for instance, the disability world, and believe me, this is a struggle in other worlds in different ways. In the disability world, this is a struggle because of the way that we started this movement. We were disabled people taking over our own lives. We were disabled people who said, no more. We've had enough of this. We want to be treated like we're humans. We want to be treated with respect and just be able to live our own independent lives. And it was those brave souls who decided that we shouldn't be hidden away in institutions. We should not be considered embarrassments for our families. That the medical model had to go, and that we should be considered individuals with thoughts and hopes and dreams and loves and personhood. Isn't that really the goal here is a independent life. So within our community, there is definitely a disability hierarchy. There is. There's no denying it. I'm not pointing fingers. There is a disability hierarchy. And that is really shameful. We're all in this fight together. We're all facing oppressive systems that are a detriment to our life. And we really need to just unify. We need a better way to unify and fight together and stop fighting each other and stop segmenting ourselves into silos. This isn't a fight of the physically disabled versus developmentally disabled. This is not a fight of intellectual disabilities versus mental health. This is not a fight versus people with low vision and the blind community. This is not a fight between deaf folk and people who identify as disabled. We all fought together to get the ADA in place. There's no reason that we should come up against each other now. We are all in the same community. We all want the same thing. We all want to live in the community independently and live the lives the way we want to choose, or way we choose to live them. The ways that we get there are different. The strategies to get there are different. So that's okay. That's okay. Everyone has their own ideas and thoughts on how things should be done. There is no top dog here. There should not be a top dog here. The reason that I got into fighting for disability rights is because I am one of a group. I am one person, but my thoughts and experiences are important. Before I joined this fight, I didn't feel like my life was important. I didn't feel like it was worth living, and I didn't feel like it was okay to be disabled. Being trapped in your own inner ableism and your own mind is horrible. And when I say that, what I mean is everybody has an internal voice. My disabilities are more than just physical. My disabilities lead to fractures of my own mental health. I have a variety of mental health related disabilities. And it really has taken a long time to be okay with it. And some days are better than others. Today's been a day of struggling and grappling with it. But that's more or less which is leading to my scattered thoughts. So just bear with me. The inner ableism is hard enough to deal with when it's in the community, when it's in your own head, and you're saying things to yourself like you are not worthy because you can't walk. You're not worthy because your depression, anxiety, whatever, is telling you that you're a bad person and that you don't contribute anything to this world. that's going to stop you from thinking you're going to be able to do anything at all. And when I didn't have this community to tell me that these things happen, that there are other people that this happens to, there have been a handful of times in my life where I sincerely thought about ending it. I felt completely alone, and I didn't know what to do. And ever since I joined this community, ever since I learned that there were other people who were in this struggle with me, the weight of all of the inner ableism has started to dissipate. It will never be completely gone. I am a very proud disabled woman. I am very proud of my disabilities now. I don't want to be non-disabled. I think it's great. But there was a time I didn't think that. There was a time that I didn't know I was allowed to. So we need to do a better job within our community, making everyone feel that way, making everyone feel empowered and to understand that they do have power, and that as a group, if we just unify and fight for the issues and just go for them, we're unstoppable. There's so many of us. So many. There's no reason that we have to live in apathy. There's no reason for people to think they're too disabled to help the fight. We need to find better ways to be more inclusive of everyone in the community, whether that's people with invisible disabilities, people who with chronic illness, people who can't physically go to the locations, go to the protest. While protest is great, and protests led me to my family, it led me to my siblings in this movement, and it helped me feel like I was part of the group. There has to be a way that we can do that for other people who cannot physically be there. Just simply sending out emails and social media is a tool. It's a great tool, but it isn't enough. We know that there is ableism within these offices that we're trying to contact. We know that they say that the phone calls are really the only things that matter. There are people who can't make those phone calls. There has to be a better way. How do we include our folks who desperately want to be part of this, but they just can't get out of their house, or they just can't get out of their bed? How do we include folks with communication access issues? How do we include folks in meetings who have these communication access issues if we don't have the tools to give them that would make them included? How do we get there? These are the conversations that I want to see people having. These are the things I want to see, real, tangible things being figured out. And frankly, I don't see enough of the people that this impacts being included in the conversation. So I really want to see them included in the conversation. If all it takes is helping somebody get a ride somewhere, maybe they can't walk long distances. Maybe they have a chronic illness that keeps them from being able to do physical item A, B, or C. Maybe somebody's on a vent and that vent only is good for a certain amount of hours, so they can't stay at a protest that doesn't have an end time. There's always something to do. There's always some way to resist. We need to help our siblings in this movement figure out their place and how they're going to best be effective and feel effective. It's not even being effective, it's feeling effective. Because I've seen so many people coming down on themselves because they feel like they can't be somewhere or do something, so they're no longer useful. That's not true. That is not true. I see you folks with chronic illnesses. I see you folks that are bound to your home. I see you trying and making an effort and doing things in different ways. Try different ways. There's one woman that I think is awesome. She's a fantastic activist. And her contribution is that she's an artist. So she creates merchandise to raise money for the organization that I fight with. That is so brilliant. That is so brilliant. If you have a skill and you want to take that skill and offer it to the group, but you can't figure out a way to use that skill to be more effective, brainstorm with the group. Heck, reach out to me. Tell me your idea. I'll try and help you find a way. Other things, there is a growing number of activists, again, because I guess from what I understand, people hadn't wanted to be involved, but there is a group of people who are people of color, and immigrants, and people outside of the white cisgendered group within the disability community who are doing amazing things, who just want true intersection and true allyship. Why wouldn't we give it to them? Why wouldn't we be there as much as they are for us? There's no reason. If you live in a city or a state that has a group that fights for immigration rights, or it fights for Black Lives Matter, or it fights for trans groups, or LGBTQ plus groups, or even just women or men. While a majority of the groups that focus on men are garbage, there are some that have specific issues like male survivors of assault. These are all groups that you could take part in. These are all allies that you could gain, that you could take with you on your trips, on your fights for disability rights. I don't remember the exact quote. I never do. My memory these days, because of the depression, has worsened. But it's something to the effect of, if your fight isn't intersectional, then your fight is garbage. And I completely agree. I completely agree. When you have a disability justice group, go down the checklist. Are you being inclusive of not just everyone in the community, but are you also being inclusive of people of color, of immigrant rights, of LGBTQIA, blah, 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 blah group. Whatever group that I'm failing to remember because, again, my memory's garbage. Are you being inclusive of them? Are your activities inclusive of them? Are your locations inclusive of them? These are things to think about. And I'm gonna, here's where I want to talk about some successes that I actually found last year. So we had what we called a summer of adapt, where we were fighting for our lives, fighting that would basically keep us alive. And a lot of it was centered around healthcare, like the majority of it was healthcare. And so what ended up happening is something really beautiful. There were groups that we worked together with to gain success and to fight for a common goal. Some of the groups we found great success with, some of them not so much, but some of the groups that we found were great. Had something to do with children in some way. So for example, last summer, we had worked with trach mamas. We had advocates from the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, which is a great organization. We had individuals from Indivisible. We had just a number of different kinds of groups, and they weren't all disability related, but they all cared about healthcare. They all cared about the changes in Medicaid, and they all cared about the fact that any changes that were being proposed would ultimately kill millions of people. And it would lead to people being forced into institutions because they could no longer access the same amounts of community services that they had been accustomed to. And they would not receive the same services in a nursing facility. And so all summer, we fought for this. And we found great success because over and over and over again, these groups, and I should mention the National Council on Independent Living, which was a part of this group and was fantastic. We found success because over and over again, we squashed the bill that would have catapulted tons of people into nursing facilities and killed millions. Because remember, and people forget this, a lot of the people on social programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and Medicaid, and the food stamps and all of that, a lot of these people impacted most are children. It would have killed them. And when people write nasty comments about how they should all get jobs and blah, 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 what do you expect a 7-year-old to do? So, never in my life have I been part of something so horrific and terrifying and beautiful and wonderful as the summer of Adapt. There were people all over this country who had not originally even been in the disability rights protest fight, who all of a sudden were band together and were fighting together. There was a group in Arizona who decided that enough was enough. And they formed their own little adapt group and made these great t-shirts that said we're freaking adapt, and that makes me laugh every single time I think about it. I love those shirts. So these groups band together for one issue, and they fought together on this one issue, and we were so impactful. We were all over the news. All over the news. Not even just in our country, all over the world. We were in international papers because of this. And as a result, we got more people wanting to be involved. We got more people involved in fighting the fight for disability rights and learning about the issues. Because this is what this is about. This is about the issues. This is a fight for accessible, affordable, and integrated housing. This is the fight for accessible transportation. This is the fight to be able to live in the community. Because if you live in the community, why are you going to fight for accessible housing? Why are you going to fight for transportation you can't use if you're not in the community? So everything is all intertangled and all intermingled. And this group, for the entire summer, they got together and protested over and over and over again. We were truly like an army. It was amazing. I have met some of the most amazing people through that. The most passionate people who just want to fight to stay alive. And the devastation I saw in the faces of people when they learned that one of the incarnation of this bill had been pushed through. And then immediately after, the fire that I saw in these same people's faces, as tears were streaming down their face, the anger and the passion that I saw in these people's faces, that was a truly unifying moment for me. So going forward, I want to see more of that. I want to see more anger and passion and accountability for the actions of people who should want to harm us. I want to see more accountability within our community. I want to see more accountability outside of our community, because we're in this together. We are in this together. Get out there and band together. Find a way that you can help with this fight. Reach out to me. Ask me anything about suggestions or how you can help or what to do. I'll help. If I could do anything for you, I will help. I might not succeed, but I will help. Go out into your communities. Go online to your communities and be a helper. I will catch you next time. Hopefully I can create more of an uplifting video. But I hope that going away from this, you have heard something that I've said. Thank you.